Hey, Larkin Rose here, and have I got a deal for you? No, it's not a used car. Here's my deal. I won't rob you to pay for things that I want if you don't rob me to pay for things that you want. Or to be more specific, I won't advocate that you be forced to hand over your money to fund things that I want and you don't if you don't advocate that I be forced to hand over my money to pay for things that you want and that I don't. Now, whenever I make this offer, almost everybody says, yeah, sure, I don't even know why you're asking. Of course. Yep, I'll take you up on that deal. Almost none of them mean it. Here's why I say that. If you vote, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. If you vote, you are trying to put people into power who you know are going to use the mechanism of government taxation to demand money from me and from a couple 100 million other people to pay for the agenda of whatever candidate or party you voted for. You know they do that. And you know what happens to people who don't pay their taxes. You know they're not just asking nicely, they're forcing people to hand over their money by threatening to jail them or take their house or wipe out their bank account. You know that. When you vote, you know that you are advocating that everybody else be forced to hand over money to your guy, to your party, to spend the way they see fit. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. Either way, if you vote, you are not just forcing me to fund things that I don't want to pay for, but forcing me to fund things that I think are destructive and immoral. For example, if you vote Republican, you are trying to force me, by way of taxation, to fund a war on drugs and a military that I believe are horribly immoral and destructive. Now, whether you agree with me on that, who cares? The point is, if you vote Republican, you are trying to force me to fund things that I think are immoral. Now, if you vote Democrat, same thing. A little bit different flavor, same outcome. If you vote Democrat, you're trying to force me to pay for wealth redistribution schemes and a welfare state which I believe is designed to keep millions of people helpless and hopeless. I think it's immoral. I think it's destructive. Again, whether you agree with that, I don't really care. The point is, if you vote Democrat, you are trying to force me to fund things I think are destructive and immoral. Whoever you vote for, you're trying to force me to fund things that I think are immoral and destructive. So when I make the deal that says, hey, I won't rob you if you don't rob me, you cannot agree to that unless you stop voting and completely forsake the game called politics. Because that's all that politics is. It's a fight over which group of people are going to force a couple 100 million Americans to hand over money for their agenda. And as it happens, I don't want either agenda or anything in between or any mixture thereof. So, unless you're going to completely give up voting and all of politics and all advocating any sort of political programs or handouts or any of that, then you can't take me up on my offer that I won't rob you and you won't rob me. If you won't give that up, and most people don't, they're attached to voting, they believe in democracy, they believe in the whole game of politics where we try to get our guy up there taking everybody's money and telling people what to do. If you won't give it up, if you won't make that deal with me, that I won't rob you if you don't rob me, if you can't make that deal, all I ask is that you be honest about it. Don't tap dance around and say how it's necessary and that this is the system we have. Just be honest. Come right out and say it out loud. Come right out and say out loud, I advocate that you be forced to fund things you think are immoral. Say it. If you're voting, you're doing it anyway. Can't you at least say it if you're going to do it? If you're going to do that to me, and again, I'm not talking about the whole system and the whole world, and you can say, well, this is democracy and this is blah, blah, blah. This video isn't about all that. This video is about you, what you personally are advocating. You, not the guy over there, not the guy over there. You. What are you advocating? Are you advocating that force be used against me personally to make me fund things that I think are destructive and immoral. And don't hide behind the civics garbage we're taught about as consent of the governed in democracy. Either you're advocating that I be forced to fund things that I think are destructive, or you don't. If you're not going to give up voting, please just say it. Just say it. Just once. Just once, say it out loud. Say, I advocate that you be forced to fund things that you think are destructive and immoral. Because, frankly, if you go around advocating that people be forced to pay for things they don't want, they don't like, they think are destructive, doesn't that make you an uncivilized thug? And if you go around forcing people to do that and you can't even say it out loud, doesn't that make you not only an uncivilized thug, but also a dishonest coward? Okay, now that I've been pretty mean, let me be a little bit nicer here. I don't think that the reason you advocate that I be forced to pay for things you want and I don't is because you're a nasty, evil person. I don't think that's why you do it. I believe, I would assume that you're trying to be good. You want to be a moral, righteous, just human being. And I believe you have been tricked into thinking that when this theft and forcing people to pay up is done in a certain way, through certain political rituals and constitutions and elections and legislation, you've been tricked into believing that makes it okay, that makes it moral. In fact, most people have been tricked into believing not only does that make it moral to force people to fund things they're against, but if they resist, they're the evil ones. And as a matter of fact, 12 people decided that I should be in a cage for a while. And I was for a year because I didn't fully cooperate with the government extortionists that said, give us your money. Now, I don't think those 12 people were individually malicious. None of them ever robbed me on their own. But they really and truly believed that I was the bad guy, not only for trying not to be robbed myself, but for pointing out to them that their own government was robbing them. So they imagined that I was the bad guy, and they thought the right thing to do was to put me in a cage, which they did. Now, if you voted Democrat or Republican, you helped create and empower the system that put me in a cage for a year for not paying for an agenda that I think is horribly anti-human and evil and destructive. Now, you can say, well, that's not what I believe in, I wouldn't have done that, and you can make excuses all day long. But if you go into that voting booth and you press the button next to somebody who you know is going to use his power to demand money from me, and a couple 100 million other people, obviously it isn't just me, I'm just using this as an example. If you do that, you are committing evil. Now again, I don't think it's because you tried to commit evil. I don't think it's because you wanted to be a nasty person. If you are trying to be a good human being, I beg you, I literally beg you to read the book, The Most Dangerous Superstition. Because you will see that you have been tricked, that your own goodness, your virtue, has been twisted and turned around and used against you. That your good intentions, by way of what you've been taught about government and authority and law and all that, and politics, that your good intentions have been twisted inside out to make your goodness serve evil and destruction and war and all sorts of nasty things. So I literally beg you to read the book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, because I don't want your virtue and your goodness and your productivity to be used to fuel evil anymore. I want your goodness to serve goodness.